Legends say that hummingbirds float free of time, carrying our hopes for love, joy, and celebration. Hummingbirds open our eyes to the wonder of the world and inspire us to open our hearts to loved ones and friends. Like a hummingbird, we aspire to hover and to savor each moment as it passes, embrace all that life has to offer, and to celebrate the joy of every day. The hummingbird's delicate grace reminds us that life is rich, beauty is everywhere. Every personal connection has meaning, and that laughter is life's sweetest creation. If that doesn't describe Adele Groppo Kellogg, I don't know what does. She had that delicate grace about her. She knew that beauty lies in everything and everyone, and that this personal connection is the real stuff of life. She knew that it didn't matter if you had the fanciest car. It mattered that her grandchildren gave her the biggest hugs in the whole wide world, and that all of your smiles were able to uplift her when it was needed the most, and vice versa. That's the Adele we celebrate today. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is DJ Wright, and on behalf of my family and our care team, our thoughts and prayers are certainly with all of you, as well as all of you watching virtual. We know in the time we're living in, it's a little difficult right now to be in all places at once. So we are understanding and appreciative of all of you being here with us. And our time today was meant to be really a reflection of the grace and the beauty that was and is Adele Kellogg. I've been honored to kind of be your celebrant MC today, and I have a few words I'll share with you, and then we're going to hear from very specific folks that have some things prepared, but also we're going to open this up to everybody in the room, okay? And I know that sometimes it's scary, but you don't have to have anything prepared. As I always tell people, if you come from the heart, you cannot do anything wrong. So I'm going to ask that those of you, when the time comes, if you feel so inclined to share, please do so. I would just remind you as you come forward today to lower your mask and just introduce yourself. We are far enough away from everybody where the podium is that we will keep folks safe. So my friendship over the years with Chris obviously led to several conversations about his mother. And I did not know her well, other than what I heard about her from Chris. It's always intrigued me, as an only child myself, what other only children think about their parents, because as Chris can attest, as only children, we're perfect, we're extra special, we're totally awesome, extremely funny, handsome, see, telepathic, because we think the same things. But most importantly, usually we have parents that love us for reasons that sometimes we can't understand why they do. And Adele was no exception. She loved Chris and Dee and her grandchildren with a fierce love that, to me, defines who she is. And frankly, if someone could stand before my casket when my time comes and say that he loved fiercely for those he loved and cared for, I don't think anything else needs to be said. I mean, that's it right there. She did a lot of amazing things, which we're going to hear about in a few moments. But it was all rooted. Get the word rooted? You know where I'm going with that? Right there, her gardening stuff. It was all rooted in a foundation of pure love. It was nurtured with a certain tender care that made it grow and develop. And that was the beauty part about your Grams. She had an innate way and ability to make that love grow, not just in your dad and mom and you and the greater Groppo Richardson whole clan that was around her, but in strangers she never met. And how did she do that? By being kind and compassionate. And in a world where kind and compassion are sometimes frowned upon, except during this time of the year when Christmas is coming, and we use those buzzwords, Adele made her mark by living that way. Not a bad way to live. I wanted to share a little something before we get into our speakers. You'll notice this hummingbird feeder over here. This beautiful hummingbird that the family brought into me. And as I was sitting here by myself with Adele last night, reflecting on some words that I thought I would share, I was sitting where D was and just contemplating, looking at all the beautiful memorabilia and tributes that Chris brought in to highlight the things that made his mother's life extra special. And for those of you who are watching virtually, there's some pictures of horses, there's some pictures of her dogs, there's her t-shirts, there's some hand-painted things behind us, and it all goes back to that genuineness of Adele's character. The things that made her her are all beautiful and graceful in nature. The hummingbird not being an exception to that. Our first story, is going to come from cousin Linda Groppo, and that's going to be read by the equally beautiful and intelligent Dee Kellogg. See, us only children know how to marry well, too. Dee.
Thank you, DJ. I'm Dee Kellogg. I'm Chris's wife, and Adele would tell you her second child, her daughter. And it was such an honor to have her as part of our lives, and I'm so very blessed. And I'm truly honored to be able to share Aunt Linda's words. So, to truly know Adele, it was important to understand her birth order and importance of her Italian ethnicity. Adele, also known as Bunny, as she was affectionately known as a child, was the firstborn grandchild and named after her paternal grandmother, a woman who birthed 6 sons. Needless to say, she was the favorite and paved the road for 10 females and 3 male cousins who followed. It was Adele's role to be our leader, and lead she did. She was strong, brave, and courageous. As a group, with her as our leader, we cousins were a powerful force, a lot intimidating. Remember, Adele was an only child, so whatever she did was awesome. We've been over that already. As a young girl, she had a horse in her backyard, and she took riding lessons. She had a fur coat and was the first to wear high heels and nylon stockings. In high school, her boyfriends were football and basketball stars. After college, she didn't return to our small town. She found a job and an apartment in Washington, D.C. For most of us, our first plane ride was a trip to visit our cousin in the nation's capital. She was the one who answered questions about flowers and dogs and birds, and yes, she was a master gardener. She knew about exotic places and encouraged us to join her on excursions. She opened her heart and her home to everyone. She cooked and she baked. She taught us to love lobster and expensive ice cream. She supported us and always had our back. Yes, as the leader of our pack, she took her job seriously. Each of us feels the void in our lives today and will carry on because she taught us what to do, and she taught us well. And it's signed Linda, second in birth order.
Thank you for sharing those words by Cousin Linda Groppo. We appreciate it. I'm going to now ask Kelly McNamara to come forward. She's going to share with us some words from Cousin Betsy.
I wish I had been smart enough to print mine out, Dee. But I can read it because I have glasses on. So, hello everyone. I am Chris's business partner, Kelly McNamara, and I am honored also to be able to share these words from Cousin Betsy. Also, I thought it was this is entertaining because this is not something I would have known about Adele. My cousin Adele was older. As a child, I always wanted to be by her side. I liked tagging along and following her around. I was annoying, a pest. She put up with me and liked to tease me and play tricks, elaborate tricks. In the fall of 1965, the news was filled with stories about the death of popular, flamboyant 1920s actress Clara Bow. I didn't know anything about Clara Bow, but Adele sensed my curiosity. Everyone was talking about poor Clara. Where was she? What happened? Who did it? Was it even true? Somehow I got caught up in the frenzy, and I, too, was always talking about Clara Bow. One night, Adele invited me to meet her in the backyard under the weeping willow tree. Of course, I showed up excited to be included. I heard these strange, haunting noises and saw intermittent bright lights flashing about the yard. I remember feeling scared. Then I heard, Clara Bow, it's Clara Bow. Here I am. A light flashed and a figure dressed in women's clothing appeared in the willow tree. Was Clara really hiding at Adele's house? Possible. It was a beautiful house. If Adele's plan was to scare me away, it backfired. I wanted to be closer to her because I thought she was so clever and so smart. How did she pull off this elaborate escapade? To this day, I think about the time and energy she put into that prank. But that was my cousin Adele, over the top in all she did. She was quite the gal.
Thank you, Kelly, for sharing those memories from Cousin Betsy. There's an old adage about the spirit of the hummingbird, and it says, the hummingbird animal totem is a messenger of hope and jubilation. There is something in our souls that wants to hover at beautiful moments in our lives, making them freeze in time. There is something in us that wants to fly backwards and savor once more the beautiful past. Some of us are just hummingbird people. I want to, again, as I promised, invite anybody who wishes to come forward to share with us a memory, a thought, or a way that Adele touched your heart and soul. Is there anyone who would like to come up and share with us? And one of the things I would encourage all of you and all of you watching virtually to do, you all have memories. You all have stories that Christy and the kids may have some idea on, or some of the ones from way back they may not be too familiar with. I would encourage all of you to get out a pen and paper, write it down. Write those stories down, get them to Chris, send them to me, I'll get them to the family. Memories are meant to be shared with one another. Adele, as people have been saying, was so rich in the ways she lived and cared and nurtured for others. We know that were times different, we'd be up here with open mic for days. So we encourage you again to share those stories and let the family know some of the things you're thinking about. And it doesn't have to be tomorrow. It could be a week from now. It could be a month from now. It could be a year from now. When you're thinking of Adele randomly, don't just think about her. Get in touch with Chris and the kids and let them know, hey, this crazy thing happened. I thought of your mom. You know, they want to hear these stories. We talked before, sometimes people are afraid to bring up things after someone has died because they don't want to dampen the mood. You can't dampen the mood. Adele has died. We know that. There's nothing going to change that. But keeping her legacy alive and at the forefront and reminding people of good things, that's not going to make them upset to hear. So please, and for all your other friends too, we encourage you to do that when someone we love passes away. I'm going to go with a story now from Stephen Prey, who is a friend. I printed mine out. But I did get a chance to read it, and I have to admit I did chuckle because it was humorous. And again, as only children, Chris, we knew every face that our mom had. We knew when to duck, we knew when to hide and not come out, or we knew when to stand there and just get all the praise that we could. So I can imagine the faces that she was making at poor Steve during this little story. So again, a story about Adele from her friend Stephen Frey. I have many wonderful stories to share about Adele. The one that keeps popping into my mind is the scene at 60 Hurlbut Street. Did I get that right? Hurlbut Street, the day she moved to New Jersey. As organized and prepared as Adele was, the closing date came too quickly for her. The buyers were ready to move in, and Chris was on his way. The 8 rooms, full of furniture and special treasures, were packed, but Adele couldn't part with anything. She had cleaned out the kitchen cupboards and knew Chris wouldn't want spices and canned goods. Adele insisted that these items go to a soup kitchen. Some of the staples were from an A&P that had closed a decade before. There was no arguing with her. They were packed to be delivered. I loaded up my truck. The doors at the soup kitchen were locked. No one was around. Adele insisted that we return later to leave the donation. Back to 60 Hurlbut we went. On top of moving out of the house that day, she had appointments, cleaning, more packing, and a few more goodbyes to say. And that all had to be done before Chris showed up at the door. We made a second trip to the soup kitchen. Again, no one was there to take the boxes. Adele was sure someone would be around near dinner time and we should return before her departure. By this point, I was tired and admittedly running a little bit out of patience. I knew better than to argue with her, though. We returned to 60 Hurlbut again from the soup kitchen for the second time. Without a word, while she was occupied inside, I emptied the contents of all the donation boxes into the big dumpster. Yeah, you all know where this is going, right? Adele caught me in the act. Busted. She gave me one of her "how dare you" looks and never uttered a word. We met her deadline. Chris arrived and she headed off to New Jersey. She never forgave me and I never forgot. I miss my friend. And I know I did the right thing, and I know she agrees. With love, Stephen. We're now going to ask, I think, the tallest guy in the room. Right? Almost a little taller than Dad. Her beloved grandson, Daniel, to come forward and share with us some words about his grandma.
Not quite the tallest yet, I think. Uncle Munch still has me. Not Dad, but definitely Uncle Munch. Oh, right, my mask. So I'm the grandson, the first grandchild, the biggest pain in the ass. So my grandmother was the most kind-hearted and loving person I've ever known. She always found a way to inspire and draw the best out of everyone she knew. She inspired us with her kindness, and when we needed a kick in the pants, she was more than happy to give that to us. Family was the most important thing to Grandma Kellogg. She made sure that everyone was perfectly aware of this. Whether she was making baked stuffed shrimp or Christmas cookies or tomato sauce, she always found a way to make you feel like the most important person in the world. My favorite memories with Grandma are always the simple ones, like watching the weird shows about aliens or Bigfoot. We like doing all that sort of stuff together. And of course, my grandmother and her gardens. As I got older, of course, now I think it's a pleasure, but at the time, it was a chore. I got to spend hours upon hours with Grandma Kellogg, weeding and taking care of her amazing gardens. She showed me and my sister a level of work ethic that was necessary to be successful. This lesson would be repeated through anything that she did. She made sure that you knew that the little things counted, like scrubbing the dishes before they went in the dishwasher, which I still don't really understand. Those are...
We'll get there, son.
Yeah. My grandmother was one of the most amazing people I've ever known, and I count myself as one of the most lucky people in the world to have known her and gotten a chance to spend as much time as I did with her. I miss her very much, and I enjoyed every moment I had with her.
Well said, my friend. Actually, almost better than the poet Keats, who wrote, "A thing of beauty is a joy forever. Its loveliness increases. It will never pass into nothingness." And I thank you for sharing all that beauty of your grandmother, who I know will never pass from your or Elizabeth's heart. And more importantly, your actions. Because as I've spoken to both of you, and the beauty part is, Mom and Dad, I'm going to give you a little credit here, but she's lived with you for the last 7 years, so she gets a lot of credit for these two and deserves it, because their actions honor her. And as gracefully and as dignified as they've been the last several days, you're going to see a lot of her in them, and that's a great thing. You guys keep doing that. I'm going to ask Reverend Ann Arnowski to come forward to share with us some words from another good friend of Adele's, Cindy Northcutt. Pastor.
Hi, I'm Ann Yarnowski. I am a cousin of the Kellogg's. And I'm sharing something from Cynthia Martin Northcutt, who was one of Adele's closest friends. Adele and I met in 1965 as college freshmen at what was known as Endicott Junior College, a girls' school with a campus in Beverly, Massachusetts. Our dorm had once belonged to an old sea captain and had been renovated over the years into rooms that housed a large number of New England's daughters. Adele and I were both retail majors, which seemed like a glamorous career back in the day. We wanted to work in the fashion industry, where the latest fads in clothing, minis, maxis, and all the other pop trends. And so we became friends. I never met Adele's Aunt Mary, but I believe she is responsible for getting Adele interested in attending Endicott. And I will always be grateful to Aunt Mary for that. Adele and I have very different childhood experiences. She was of proud Italian heritage, had extended family of aunts, uncles, and cousins, community connections, and of course, a horse. I was an only child of a single mother without family connections or even a cat for a pet. I lived vicariously in books borrowed from the public library. Aunt Mary gave Adele her first book as a teenager. Yet when we became friends, Adele and I did land careers in retailing. She in Washington, D.C., and later Connecticut, and I went to Boston and later San Diego, California. Years went by, and our lives filled with travels, marriage, children, and small things we do while making plans. We met again at Endicott's 25th reunion for the class of 1967. Our friendship picked up right where we left off. And over the next 30 years, we shared so many experiences. Too many to detail, and I'm not sure appropriate to divulge. In 2019, Adele and I spent a few days in New York City. This turned out to be our last visit together. We had lunch with Dee and Elizabeth after their tour of the Metropolitan Museum. We had our photo taken at the top of the rock. We laughed, and we enjoyed just being together. I'm so grateful that Adele has been part of my life. I love that she folded me into her family with Chris and Dee, Daniel and Elizabeth. We were different girls when we met in 1965. And over the years, we grew into women who appreciated the qualities that we each brought to the relationship. Rest in peace, girlfriend.
Thank you so much for sharing those words. And again, there's never just one time for stories. Stories truncate our life and permeate at every level. So we encourage you to continue stories and memories long after this day has ended. But we also encourage you to continue to make those memories and keep Adele very much at the forefront of all that you do. To be dead is not to be gone. That's a societal construct, one that bothers me as I stand up here quite often, because certain things that happen in society don't need to, and that's one of them. We had given out several things for those of you who are watching the live stream, and Chris and the family have plenty of extras to mail to you, and we'll be bringing them to Connecticut when the burial happens. But one of the things we made, and it's hard to see probably that far away, is a beautiful bookmark. It has lots of vegetables and her gardening tools and all the things that she loved to nurture and bring to this life. And on the back it says, "Let us be grateful to people who make us happy. They are the charming gardeners who make our souls blossom." I think of no better way than to have that image of a gardener, someone who nurtures, someone who loves, someone who brings something good and great in this world to blossom, than introducing my friend Chris, Adele's son. As I said before, being the mom of an only boy is not easy, but she did it with grace, she did it with humility, and for the most part, I'll say she did it well. But her happiness is what I see in Chris, and what most of you see in Chris as well. And that speaks more to who Adele is than anything. So without further ado, I'm going to ask her son Chris to come forward and share with us some of his memories of his mom.
So, lots of traditions have started and maintained, one of which is the tradition of practical jokes that I encourage all of you to ask her grandchildren what were some of. I dreaded April Fool's Day because you'd have no idea what I was going to wake up to. The good lower back quadrant of the right side, I call it my spoiler, but that is designated to April Fool's Day, so feel free to get specifics from Elizabeth and Daniel. Traditions, her stealing my glasses, and I'm doing the same. I'm stealing her, so we're going to keep certain things rolling. So, First and foremost, thank you all for coming here today and celebrating an amazing life of my mom, Adele Kellogg. Adele was much more than a mom. She was a daughter. She was a wife, a niece, a grandmother, cousins, friends, going down the board. To be able to accrue a list of titles like that, you need to be able to stick around for a while. And she's done that. She hasn't just was present, she lived. She loved. To have a resume like that, again, you need to be here a while, and thus I would place her in the category of being an elder of our family. She might let me get that one by, as long as I give the footnote that my chronological age isn't proportional to my spiritual age, which is God's honest truth. I wanted to think about how we can honor her, and I went back and forth a lot. And one of the things of all of the lessons that she's taught us that we heard a little bit about is that, she's not just an elder, but those elders that are exceptional in their communities, in their tribes, would have the title of being a wise man or a wise woman. When I throw that out in front of her, I've already had the internal dialogue several times that, I'd let you float with the elder part, but the bantering back and forth, the bargaining back and forth would start right now. And that she said, if you're going to label me as an elder, a wise woman, I get to refer to you as the wise ass. So okay. Which, why break things, tradition now? So, and I'm okay with that, because one of the lessons of several was that she's always said, if your head, your heart, or if your gut is telling you something, you stick with it. You stand up. You stick your chest out. You raise your voice. And make sure that your voice is always heard. And that's one that I'm okay doing. A wise woman is a woman of unusual learning, judgment, and insight. Her learning is not exclusive to the academic, but comprised of life experiences. She naturally retains knowledge to the point that others look for them for guidance, reassurance, because of their born leadership skills. That's because a wise woman's compassion, kindness, and interests are oftentimes born in nature. Wise women aren't born that way, but molded by life experiences. A wise woman would never self-identify as a wise woman. She may consort with birds or bask in nature's beauty. Above all else, she values her independence, knows herself well, makes her voice be heard, and as such can be seen as eccentric. She stands apart as much for her free spirit as for her uncanny ability to sense true potential and worthiness in all those she encounters. All these qualities were present in my mother, Adele. Adele believed in leaving the world a better place than how she found it. She accomplished this through caring and cultivating. She honored her elders by caring for them. She maintained her quality of life by caring for herself. She nurtured future generations. She was an extraordinary caregiver. She cared for her parents, her aunt, and her uncles at the end of their lives. She did this while raising me. She was a fierce advocate and never let me just settle for enough. I was taught that I can't always control the final outcomes of life, but what I can control is the volume of hard work and drive that I can put forward to help steer my outcome where I would want it to be. And she always felt where I belonged. She brought this same philosophy of caregiving when she moved to New Jersey and helped raise and nurture her grandchildren, Daniel and Elizabeth. She passed along beautiful family traditions and knowledge. She used her love of cooking and baking as a tool to teach resilience and perseverance. By following the recipe with these ingredients and sprinkling the end product with love, they could achieve sweet success. Grandma Kellogg knew her grandchildren were capable of achieving all of their goals if they worked hard enough and earned them. The lesson, nothing is worth having if it's just given, but it has to be earned, was a regular lesson in the Kellogg house. Mom would compare recipes with thee. They strive to keep the long-held family traditions alive by upholding some of the recipes so to meet today's dietary needs. Thus, the gluten-free Italian Christmas cookie was born. Both amazing women shared the same goal of wanting their family to be nurtured, nourished, have joy, give love, and receive love. This accomplished several times over the years, and a cheer of "Go Team Kellogg" would echo through the hallways of the Kellogg compound. Mom love of animals, whether it be her several horses that all had a special part in her heart from an early age, or her beloved cane corsos, or her adopted labs, demonstrated how she treated all things with love, dignity, and respect, and they gave them back that love, dignity, and respect that she offered them. She was a proud Groppo certified master gardener and cultivated far more the earth by growing beautiful flowers like her favorite tulips, zinnias, irises, and sunflowers, so to adorn the Kellogg compound, whether it be in Connecticut or New Jersey. Growing fruits like her family favorites, grapes, strawberries, and raspberries. A true story, a branch from the grape arbor in our backyard is the same grapevine that Mom used to play under when she was a little girl growing up with her friends and family in Connecticut. Finally, growing vegetables. Vegetables like tomatoes were made into sauce and blended up so that the grandkids did not know what was some of the ingredients in the recipe. Whenever Elizabeth tried something new, specifically vegetables, she would sing out at the top of her voice the Hallelujah song. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Elizabeth ate vegetables. And I apologize that both children have their mother's love of song and their father's singing prowess. I and the kids helped her with her gardening, and lessons were taught there too, like what that is focused on will always grow. Mom used actions as means of educating herself and others. Her actions were governed by her own life experiences. Things did not always come easy for her. She knew that sometimes growing pain will accompany growth before the growth happens. The path not taken was not always the easiest, but the lessons that were learned on the journey would serve her and those who she loved well into the future. Because of these journeys, Mom had a more robust purse, or what I'd like to call her toolkit, than most people. When asked complicated questions, she may not always have given you the answer you were looking for, but you'd never find a more resourceful person. Her answer did, however, always lead you to where your ultimate goal was. She would never ask someone for help if she was not willing to do the work herself. She always needed to be active and had to know that she accomplished at least one thing every single day. She was never really a good sitter. She actively volunteered and supported local government organizations and environmental causes. We watched her rise by lifting others. Though she will be missed by all who felt her love and were guided by her wisdom, her legacy will surely live on in generations to come that learned from the best. I will share with you the last lesson that I observed. I feel like she would want me to do that. When she passed away, the nurse helping us care for her asked me what was the time so she could say that she was pronounced as she lay comfortably and peacefully in the Kellogg compound. She now had her own place with the uncles and Aunt Mary at the Sunday table. As I looked at the clock, I saw that the time was 5:55. And I thought to myself later, is there any type of significance to that number? In hindsight, I did look it up. 5:55 is a sign and a message that reminds you to listen to your inner self, your head, your heart, or your gut. Know that the solutions and the answers to your problems are always within. If that's not a parting gift from a wise woman, then I don't know what is. I'd like to thank you all for coming here today. I and the rest of the Kellogg's are grateful, and thank you for all coming here, celebrating her life.
Wise indeed, Chris. Thank you for those heartfelt words. Just a few brief announcements before two final readings. As most of you know, burial next to, we've heard so much about beloved Aunt Mary. I kind of wish I would have met her, all the stories I've been hearing. But burial next to beloved Aunt Mary will take place in the spring in Connecticut. Certain cemeteries, when you start to get toward the northern parts of the United States, have to stop doing physical burials. So Adele will remain here with me and my family until that time. When the gravesite services are scheduled, that will appear on our website. I do not anticipate that happening to get us a date before early February. So if you don't see it until mid-February, don't be worried that you're just missing something. Again, it will be on the original website for folks to be a part of when the time is set and known. Additionally, for those of you who are watching, there has been a beautiful tribute playing throughout the Kellogg's time here of photos from Adele from when she was a wee lass to now and everywhere in between. All those photos and that video montage will be available on our website at some point tomorrow. It won't have the good music that Chris and his family picked out because of copyright laws. We have to stay within the confines of being legal, but it'll have some nice piano music that I'm sure Adele. But we hope that those pictures will make you smile, and that'll be up there forever. Also, I know that many of you do not have the ability, they weren't able to be part of today. You have some other cousins, some family members who couldn't witness this service. In about 3 days' time, the complete video of every part of the service today will be available up on the same website, again, in perpetuity. So those of you can, watch that if you didn't get a chance, or just, Sometimes we hear certain things and it's hard to stay focused at a time like this. And you want to kind of relook and listen to some of the words. Again, you'll have that opportunity in several days as well. And then I started to think of what would Adele want to have happen. She probably would have said, we've all gone on too long and that, little bit less, but she deserves everything and more that was said about her today, and I don't think she'd be mad that we all got some comfort and healing and leave here stronger than when we came in, with a sense of hope that permeates all of our lives and good, which she has provided for so many. But I thought she'd want me to give some advice really for her grandkids. So I'm going to read two things. One, you probably haven't read, but I think she would appreciate because it's from 1692. It was found in the St. Paul's hymnal. It's been turned into a poem, and I know you two are looking at me like, Deej, 1692, what can that possibly have to do with us today, in 2021? When you hear it, I think it'll make sense, and it goes to show that with all the change there is in the world, certain things, when they're planted, will always grow. So that's one. And then two, Daniel, you might have read it in English yet, or you will, but it's a poem that, Elizabeth, you will definitely read as well, and most people only know it by the fourth stanza. I'm going to read stanzas 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I really think it's your grandma's final message to you, to really go out and live the life she wanted you to have. So the first, it's entitled Desiderata, and it goes, again, it's from 1692. Amazing how it relates to today. Go placidly amid the noise and haste, and remember what peace there may be in silence. As far as possible, without surrender, be on good terms with all people. Speak your truth, quietly and clearly, and listen to others, even the dull and the ignorant, for they too have their story. Avoid loud and aggressive persons, their vexations to the spirit. If you compare yourself with other people, you may become vain and bitter, for always there will be greater and lesser persons than you. Enjoy your achievements as well as your plans. Keep interested in your own career, however humble, for it is a real possession in the changing fortunes of time. Exercise caution in your business affairs, for the world is full of trickery. But let this not blind you to what virtue there is. Many persons strive for high ideals, and everywhere life is full of heroism. Be yourself. Especially do not feign affection, and neither be cynical about love, for in the face of all aridity and disenchantment, it is as perennial as the grass. Take kindly the counsel of the years, gracefully surrendering the things of your youth. Nurture strength of spirit to sudden you in misfortune, but don't distress yourself with imaginings. Many fears are born of fatigue and loneliness. Therefore, always be gentle with yourself. You're a child of the universe. No less than the trees and the stars, you have a right to be here. And whether or not it is clear to you, no doubt the universe is unfolding as it should. Therefore, be at peace with God, whatever you conceive him or her to be. And whatever your labors and aspirations in the noisy confusion of life, keep peace with your soul. With all its sham, drudgery, and broken dreams, it is still a beautiful world. Be careful. Strive to be happy. Again, from the St. Paul hymnal, 1692, entitled Desiderata. Finally, to conclude our time today, Invictus by William Ernest Henley. Again, I'm going to read all 4 stanzas, but I think the last one specifically is Grandma Kellogg telling you what to do when you leave this place from now until that time we're all reunited again in a place where there's no pain, no suffering, but light, peace, and hope. Out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody, but my head's unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade, And yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. And finally, it matters not how strait the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. Again, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Chris, Dee, Daniel, and Elizabeth, and the entire Kellogg, Groppo, and extended family, a very sincere thank you to all of you for your love and support, to all of you watching. Again, your love and your prayers and your thoughts are very much healing to this family's hearts, and we encourage you to keep that going in the months, days, years to come.